7 Headlines Thursday, brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy.
In CVM News at 7, JLP clinches a third term, highlights triumphs and challenges. 5 seats likely headed for magisterial recount. PNP remains optimistic despite election loss. Threat to democracy. Vandalism disrupts streaming of election night. And in sports, the Reggae Boys bid for a World Cup spot.
CVM News at 7 Headlines Thursday, brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy.
Should critical illness strike? Don't let worry fill your head. Say hello to happiness and goodbye to worry with Guardian Life's new Ultimate Provider Plan. Secure your medical expenses in the event of critical illness ahead of time, while benefiting from our investment portfolio and so much more. Give yourself and your family the peace of mind you deserve with Guardian Life's new Ultimate Provider Plan today. And live secure, live easy.
Do it for your best life. Go check your HIV status. So keep your life trending, no pretending. Me I tell yourself do it for you, do it for you. Every time you are link with a condom, coulda husband, coulda wife, coulda be a random. Condom connect and protect your profile. Be your own fan. Do it for your best life. Do it for your best life. Don't put yourself at risk. Condom connect every time. Do it for your best life.
From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7. It's Thursday, September 4, 2025. I'm Nika Lewis. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a third term for the Jamaica Labour Party, and the celebration is mixed with strategy as the party's communications task force addresses election results, close calls, and the rising wave of women in politics. CVM's Raymond Morrison was at the 1 p.m. media conference.
The media briefing, which commenced at 1 p.m., was a nod to Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness's new moniker, 1 p.m., translating to One Prime Minister, a slang that sent shockwaves through the 2025 election campaign period. Thursday, the GLP reaffirmed its victory, addressed key seats, and highlighted a new surge of women in Jamaican politics.
We are elated. We believe, and we have believed all along, that we were and still are the best option of the two entities that competed. We believe that we are up to the task and we are ready to do the work on the ground for our country to improve the lives of each Jamaican, each and every Jamaican. Up to last night, it was a competition between political organizations. Today, it is a government that is committed to all of Jamaica, every single Jamaican.
And while Dr. Tufton reassured his confidence in the party that spent the last few months urging citizens to choose Jamaica, Kamina Johnson-Smith spoke on the seats that are under close scrutiny, including possible magisterial recounts. But she remained confident about the 34 seats the GLP secured, seats she says are unlikely to shift.
There are some seats that we'll be looking at more closely. Clearly, Central Kingston and Southeast St. Mary. won and lost by 12 and 11 votes based on the preliminary. We'll be looking at those counts very closely.
The manifesto chair also addressed the highly anticipated East Portland seat, lost by JLP candidate Anne-Marie Vaz, a result that had the internet buzzing and sent social media into a frenzy.
We'll be looking at those counts very closely. We're looking also at seats such as Portland Eastern and St. James Southern in respect of the results which perhaps were unanticipated in respect of the numbers that we had, and therefore we believe need to be looked at more closely as we go through what is a part of the democratic process. We're quite confident, however, that the 34 seats which the Jamaica Labour Party won, we won them outright, and therefore they are unlikely to shift. And we therefore are in a mode of looking at what can be added as opposed to moving any other direction. So again, we're approaching with all humility, with all respect, and with all reverence for our democratic process.
And over 19 women from both parties were successful this election season, with 6 of them set to enter the House of Representatives as first-time MPs. According to Dr. Dana Morris Dixon, this marks a significant milestone in women's political participation in the country.
I'm also very happy about the women in Parliament, just based on last night's count. They're 19. We'll see what happens with the final counts. That is a very big thing. It's a very big thing for the women of Jamaica. It is important that women's voices are heard. And I know that on this side, we have emphasized women and encouraging women to be a part of this political process. And we're very happy to see that.
Dr. Dixon then used the opportunity to highlight voter turnout, with the 2025 general election recording a 38.8%.
It's important that we also acknowledge that there were about 100,000 more people that voted than 2020. That is something that is good. As we look at the voter turnout data, though, I want to remind everyone that we need to look at it in a much more broader sense so that we actually take away from it what it is really telling us.
And as the conference wrapped, Johnson Smith shared her thoughts on what was considered a very close race.
Well, if you start your race at 49, if you start your race at 49 out of 63, you know, you have to anticipate some change. And that did occur. We're still looking closely at some other seats, as we shared earlier. But we respect the will of the Jamaican people, because fundamentally, this party, and look around, this party is the Democratic Party in Jamaica.
With the GLP securing a third term and women making strides in politics, according to the Labour Party, the road ahead promises both continuity and change. Raymond Morrison, CVM News.
And Prime Minister-elect Dr. Andrew Holness is mindful that there is no time to rest following the September 3 general elections. More from Carolyn Brown.
We are now on Belmont Road in Kingston, where the JLP headquarters just down the road. Now, if you turn the camera that way, you'll see the police are out and persons, I can see smoke, I see a jerk pan out there already. I don't know, these people are preparing for a big bashment. No vehicular traffic can go along this route, with no entrance, no exit.
With the path cleared for Dr. Andrew Holness and his team, as well as supporters of the Jamaica Labour Party, the JLP, to celebrate a third term, he pitched a bouncer to the wider society, explaining why Jamaica's democracy is intact.
There are those who are trying to seed a view that the mere fact of a third term is a threat to democracy. There are those who are trying to carry the idea that regardless of how well a government performs and merits to be re-elected, it shouldn't happen because somehow that is a threat to democracy. Well, today has dispelled that, because we went through the toughest battle in any democratic society in the region to stand here and say, we will be the government for the third time.
As he continued to involve the committed and the uncommitted, vowing to protect the democracy, Dr. Holness said there were some things that must be said.
No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Jamaica is at a special place today. It is an opportunity. For me, it was also a personal challenge. And I would just like to say, when you face challenges and you look for the opportunities, rise to the occasion. Look at yourself. They know you're strong. No one can stop you. And after all the attacks, the lies, the rumors, the innuendos, I am still solid as a rock. They just can't stop me now.
To the bread and butter issues, he says the prosperity on offer will differ. And so with Jamaica's potential to be realized, yet missed for decades, the team must focus on addressing the needs of the people.
The story of Jamaica is that we have done so much as a country, but we could have done so much more. For the first time, an electorate has said, we will reward a performing government to continue to deliver the promise of Jamaica.
With a win based on merit, he pledges not to be comfortable in victory, but to continue to use the momentum and accelerate the development and growth of the country, but not before renewal.
We will be rebuilding, refreshing, renewing, and preparing to be a credible alternative to the opposition for the fourth term of a Jamaica Labour Party government.
Well, we're back where we started on Belmont Road. As you can see, the Labourites are making their way away from the location after hearing their leader remind them that it was a tough fight. Actually, it was not easy. He has admitted to that, and he has left them with the assurance to continue and even do better, focus on the people's needs, he says, and he promises to work for all Jamaicans. This is Carolyn Brown reporting for CVM News.
While the work starts now, that declaration from the People's National Party following Wednesday's general election defeat. While party officials have seemingly conceded, their supporters remain unconvinced. Amoy Harriet was at the party's headquarters Wednesday night as the election results rolled in.
It was an evening that began with celebrations, a shared feeling of confidence among supporters at the People's National Party headquarters even before counting began. The counting started, and as the numbers shifted between the PNP and the JLP, the energy on location shifted with it.
1993, I believe it was 60%, thereabout. So 60.28.
As the final counts rolled in, some supporters had already seen enough. Some told us the votes weren't properly counted.
That election are not fair. PNP win it. But Master God not sleep. And anything with them do, God will reveal it.
Mark Goldman, they don't win. They're going to go to court.
For the candidates,
for us, it's a difficult night. This is not an easy speech to me. You know, one wasn't hoping for a result which is not success. And it means that the government will get its third term and we will have as a nation to deal with that going forward. But the People's National Party, I'm happy to tell you, is alive and well.
PNP President Mark Golding touted what he described as solid plans put forward by his party.
It was a truly progressive platform, a platform that offered a radical reform to the land tenure issues that have plagued this country for centuries. A radical platform that would have enhanced the standard of living and quality of life of those working families that are struggling to survive now by giving them significantly lower tax burdens on their income. And as the General Secretary said, the work begins right away to prepare ourselves for the next opportunity to offer ourselves to serve the nation in government. And I believe the people will, in due course, give us that chance.
And his supporters steadfastly by his side. Amoy Hara reporting for CVM News.
CVM News at 7 continues in a moment.
Attention motorists, it's time to switch to the T-tag on Trans-Jam highways. Vehicles using the automated T-tag lane are processed in seconds, so you can pass through the toll plazas far quicker. The T-tag makes it quicker, more cost-efficient and safer for our customers, so switch to the T-tag today and experience the convenience. T-tag packages are discounted by 50% down to $1,250, including a $500 toll credit from now on till September 5th.
Own your rhythm, feel secure, and move through life with Abina Super Absorbent Disposable Underwear, designed with urinary challenges in mind, providing maximum protection, comfort, and control, because nobody needs to know but you. Abina Super Absorbent Disposable Underwear, available at Independent Living, free samples in store, delivery island-wide. Rising above physical challenges, we can help you do it.
So much for staying with us. The outcome of Jamaica's general election remains unsettled in some constituencies as the closeness of the results suggests the count is not yet over. The final makeup of Parliament could hinge on decisions made in the courtroom rather than at the ballot box.
At least 5 seats from Wednesday's general election appear to be headed for magisterial recounts as razor-thin margins in several constituencies are already triggering a second look. Under Jamaica's electoral laws, once the final count is completed, candidates may apply for a magisterial recount before a parish judge in the parish or constituency where the tally is being disputed. Based on preliminary results, the 2 closest contests were Kingston Central and St. Mary Southeastern. In Kingston Central, just 12 votes separated the People's National Party's Steve McGregor from incumbent Donovan Williams of the Jamaica Labour Party. And in St. Mary Southeastern, the margin was even slimmer. Only 11 votes, or 0.1%, between the GLP's Dr. Norman Dunn and the PNP's Christopher Brown. Other cliffhangers unfolded across the country. In Portland Eastern, the PNP's Isaac Buchanan edged out incumbent Anne-Marie Vaz of the GLP by a margin of 0.8%. And in St. James Southern, Nikisha Burchell of the PNP held a 1.6% advantage over the GLP's Homer Davis. Manchester Central also came down to the wire, with the GLP incumbent Rhoda Crawford surviving by just 182 votes, a mere 1%. While in Clarendon Northern, Wavell Hines of the PNP leads with a slim 2 percentage point lead. With margins this close, electoral watchers say it's almost certain that magisterial recounts will be pursued in the coming days, setting the stage for another round of tense legal battles before the winners can be firmly declared. Andre Jebinson, CVM News.
Country held its breath for the final general election results. Telecommunication giants Digicel and Flow Jamaica both reported that there were vandalism of critical infrastructure. Streaming and cable services were crippled as vandals allegedly cut through Jamaica's main digital lifelines at an off-site location. We'll have more on that story, but we actually have that story from Crystal Williams.
As the nation tuned in to one of the most anticipated nights of television this year, viewers were met with lags in streaming services due to alleged vandalism. CEO at Digicel Group, Stephen Murad, reported the situation at about 4:40 p.m. on Wednesday.
So there are two submarine cables that come into the island, which basically bring data. So on one of those legs, which is basically the Miami leg, which is the closest leg to Jamaica.
Sources at Digicel disclosed that connection cords were damaged at an off-site location.
Flow experienced vandalism of our cables, which are located in the vicinity of the Mandela Highway. This resulted in loss of service in terms of cable, landline, and internet for some of our customers in the parishes of St. Catherine, Maypen, and Mandeville.
Upon discovering these issues, Murad says they immediately made contact with their colleagues at Flow, in addition to informing their customers. He confirms this act of vandalism as sabotage.
This is not an easy network to find. It's underground, so you would need to go and find it. You would need to dig through a concrete chamber and then pull out the cables and then intentionally cut the said cables, which is consequently what we found.
Flow Jamaica continues to condemn these acts of vandalism.
We continue to appeal to the public for greater vigilance, while of course we continue to work with our government and legislative leaders to encourage them to implement stiffer penalties for such acts.
For Decision 2025, this is Crystal Williams reporting for CVM News.
We have more to come right after the break.
The defense begins. CVMTV's exclusive coverage of the ISA schoolboy football season begins September 6th at Stadium Eastfield. The Costa Cup kingpins Garvey Maceo start their quest for another rural area title. They battle Fogo Road on opening day at 2:30 p.m. And then Manning Cup holders Kingston College lock horns with Charlie Smith at 5 p.m. The path to schoolboy football glory begins here, and CVMTV is the place to see it happen. It's Garvey Maceo versus Fogo Road at 2:30 p.m. and Kingston College versus Charlie Smith at 5 p.m. and it's live and exclusive on CVMTV.
Join us this week on Tourism One-on-One as we examine how the tourism sector has been performing in the post-pandemic environment with Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Edmund Bartlett.
Thanks so much for staying with us. We continue the news. Wednesday's slim margin of victory for the Jamaica Labour Party over the People's National Party remains one of the much talked about topics tonight. But pundits say the government ought to celebrate cautiously, as the margin when compared to the last general election tells a troubling tale for the three-term party and elected parliamentarians. As the Andrew Holness-led Jamaica Labour Party awaits the final results of the 2025 general elections, political commentator and former politician Lloyd B. Smith notes the likely challenges for the government with its much reduced win margin. He opines that things will change in how democracy is handled in the nation's parliament.
Parliament had become very boring in recent years, but I think now that we have this very razor-thin majority, we are going to see a lot of fireworks in Parliament, and it is to be noted that the bulk of the PMP leadership, the more experienced parliamentarians in the PMP are now back in Parliament, and this, I think, augurs well for our parliamentary democracy, and I have no doubt that the government will be kept on its toes more so now than before. And this is good because it will enable the country to perhaps expect greater levels of accountability and transparency and overall better governance.
Right. In 2020, the JLP, then seeking a repeat victory, secured 49 seats to the PNP's 14. However, the JLP's latest victory Wednesday was carved by a 34-29 seat tally. The JLP also secured the popular vote with some 413,000 votes. Political commentator Damian Gordon notes that the Parliament will no longer be lopsided and will inspire more respect for the opposition on critical matters.
The opposition now, because of the fact that it has an increased number of parliamentarians, we expect the opposition, which it was vocal relative to its size over the last 4 years. But given the fact that the opposition has 29 seats in the Parliament, we expect that to be amplified significantly. So I am looking forward to the vibrant parliamentary discussions. I am looking forward to the debates. I am looking forward to the checks and balances. We had concerns about creeping authoritarian tendencies, given the fact that the Prime Minister, the Parliament became a rubber stamp of the Prime Minister. We're unlikely to see that continue. So I think this is very good for strengthening our democracy works overall.
Meanwhile, a member of the special needs community and political commentator Jermaine Barrett concurs that the post-election results speeches of both major party leaders showed their understanding of the night's results and the desire of the people. Barrett says while Golding exceeded expectations, there's need for the Prime Minister-elect to heed the voice of the people.
He also needs to recognize that he can no longer sort of cast aside and ignore the opposition, not when the opposition has no command or no commands 29 seats with his razor-thin margin of 3 seats.
As final counts get underway, the winning party says it hopes to secure even more seats, widening the gap. The Electoral Commission of Jamaica, ECJ, is coming under fire this evening for what critics say were multiple lapses at polling stations on election day. Details from Amoy Harriet.
Outside a polling station in southeastern St. Catherine on Wednesday, a voter with a leg injury forced to endure a long wait in line. The elderly man in front of him requested a chair after standing in line for too long. Similar scenes played out at polling stations across the island on Wednesday. Social development specialist Dr. Peter Ann Baker is disappointed.
This is 2025 with global warming and climate change and everything else. You cannot afford to have people standing in line for upwards of an hour, in fact, a half an hour. As I said to myself in the last 2 days, what is the budget for the electoral office? Does it actually have adequate resources to carry out this awesome job that it has?
Now, the Electoral Commission piloted the electronic voter identification system during Wednesday's proceedings, and many voters weren't pleased.
They are not good at anticipating what can go wrong. And yesterday, both Murphy and his cousin had a fantastic time. Neither Flow nor Digicel were reliable providers. So does that mean you have to put in a backup? Is there some means in which we can keep systems going?
Meanwhile, former Director of Elections Orrit Fisher pointed to another issue.
Most people would be unaware that in 2011 and 2016, those are the two highest voter turnout in the history of the country, 2011 and 2016. But the percentages did not reflect that because since continuous registration, the removal of, remember when they had regular enumeration, each time it was a new list. So if 500,000 persons were registered, those 500,000 persons were available to vote, so to speak. But now, since continuous enumeration, a number of persons who have migrated and who would have died and so on would have not been removed from the list. And therefore, that's another thing that the ECJ will have to look at, how to have those persons removed from the list, whether it's a full re-enumeration or some verification.
He's calling on the ECJ to conduct a thorough reassessment of its procedures. Amoy Harriet for CVM News.
Stay with us for more CVM News at 7 in a moment.
$620. The time by KFC is
7:30.
Join us this week on Tourism One-on-One as we examine how the tourism sector has been performing in the post-pandemic environment with Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Edmund Bartlett.
Where it all begins. The quest to become great. Inspired by those who went before them, these four boys dream of playing in the ISA schoolboy football competitions.
Will you score this for Casey? Will you score? It's a shot, it's a goal!
And it's a shot, and it's a goal! And Casey has won the Manning Cup, and they will play Clarendon College in the Olivia Shield.
Thanks for staying with us. With the conclusion of the 2025 general election, the nation's parliament is set to undergo notable change, reflecting the will of the electorate. Adjustments in party strength and representation are expected to reshape Gordon House, with some observers suggesting the new configuration could enrich debate and broaden national discourse. Andre Jebinson reports on the key shifts emerging from the polls.
Gordon House will look different when it resumes after the September 3 general election. The chamber will now reflect a political landscape that has been redrawn by the electorate. The most glaring change is the balance of power. When members of parliament last sat, the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, commanded a comfortable 49 seats, while the People's National Party, PNP, languished with just 14. Now, the JLP will still sit on the Speaker's right, but with 15 fewer seats. The opposition benches, once sparse, are now crowded with new energy after the PNP rebounded. Another shift is the presence of women. 19 will sit in the new parliament, 11 on the government side and 8 in opposition. Among them are Juliet Cuthbert-Flynn, Favour Williams, Olivia Grange, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke and Crystal Lee, alongside a wave of newcomers like Nikisha Burchell, Andrew Perkis and Heather Miller-Bennett. Fresh energy will also arrive in the form of 15 first-time MPs. 3 of them will wear JLP colours, while the opposition benches will welcome no fewer than 11 rookies. The newcomers include familiar names from civic life and politics: Delano Seavright, Audrey Marks, Steve McGregor, Omar Newell, Dr. Kenneth Russell, and Dr. Alfred Dawes, among others. Notably, the 2025 election also reopened the door for a number of political veterans: Dr. Dayton Campbell, Ian Hales, Dwayne Vaz, Peter Bunting and Richard Azan, all of whom fell in 2020, return this time wearing the confidence of a new mandate and accepting Vaz representing new constituencies. But where there are returns, there are also departures. 10 incumbents will not be walking back into Gordon House. Among the casualties are big names like Anne-Marie Vaz, whose defeat in East Portland shocked many, along with former ministers of state Homer Davis and Dr. Norman Dunn. Others such as Donovan Williams, Michelle Charles, Dwight Sibley and George Wright also lost their seats. The reshaping of Parliament is further underscored by a transition between chambers. Audrey Marks, Delano Seavright, Delroy Williams, Damon Crawford, and Peter Bunting have all crossed from the Senate to the House of Representatives, trading the appointed upper chamber for the bruising Vote 1 legitimacy of the lower house. Andre Jebinson, CVM News.
And now to regional and international news.
We begin with news in the region. Although the Ghana Elections Commission GCOM is yet to declare the official results of the 2025 general and regional elections, the incumbent People's Progressive Party Civic PPPC has already begun celebrating what it claims is victory. HGPTV provides that update.
I don't want to call the election results because we are awaiting the official declaration. And I think political parties should await GCOM making an official declaration. But given the system that we've introduced, there's no mystery any longer.
The General Secretary went on to disparage political opponents for not saying what the results look like.
And so I don't see why political parties are speaking the nonsense that they're speaking about await GCOM official results. And one party said, like Mr. Norton, he still sees a pathway to victory, when everything is in the public domain already.
Opposition leader Aubrey Norton, in his retort to the fanfare, has asked for calm and the continuation of the process to its eventual conclusion.
Do anything to ensure that the results of these elections are the true results. We will stay on top of it to ensure that no irregularities occur at this stage. And we do believe once there are no irregularities, then there's a pathway to victory.
On the southernmost tip of Trinidad, the Venezuelan coastline is visible with the naked eye, but beneath the usual calm, there's growing unease. We hear more from CNC3 News.
On Tuesday, a U.S. military airstrike obliterated a go-fast vessel carrying drugs in international waters near Venezuela. 11 people were killed instantly. Now, fishermen fear their boats could be mistaken for traffickers, drawing them into deadly crossfire and even a possible war between the U.S. and Venezuela.
I feel like it happen anyway, because sometimes when you're walking right across here and you see a boat coming from down on the main side, you have to come out of the area.
Ikakosh resident Margaret Ishmael already plans to leave home and stay with her daughter in central Trinidad. Her village lies just half an hour from the Venezuelan shoreline. She says the situation is frightening and prays it does not escalate into war.
My daughter, I'm from Chabones, really. My daughter told me, Mommy, if you hear anything more than that, get up there, because look at where we are. The sea's right out there, Venezuela is so much about a half an hour away from us.
Resting in his hammock, Akash Nathan admitted that while he supports the fight against drugs, the loss of life is devastating. He fears Trinidad and Tobago's oil fields, lying dangerously close to Venezuelan waters, could become vulnerable if Nicolas Maduro's government retaliates.
And in international news, the European Commission has given final approval to a massive trade deal with South America's Mercosur bloc. We turn to France 24.
The European Union looks likely to form the world's biggest free trade zone with South America's Mercosur 25 years after negotiations first began.
Mercosur will be the EU's biggest trade deal to date. A free trade area with 700 million customers. Europe is strengthening existing alliances and creating new relations where all involved will benefit.
Against a backdrop of US tariffs which have upended global commerce, the EU's been seeking to diversify its partners and secure new trade markets. Mercosur, the bloc uniting Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay, would remove import duties on 91% of EU goods, with the European Commission estimating an increase in exports up to 39% or €49 billion a year. However, EU farmers fearing